Have you ever walked into a room and felt completely invisible, even as the air buzzed with voices and laughter? Not everyone draws attention by being loud. Some people barely speak, yet something about them makes others turn and take notice. The Stoics understood that lasting attraction isn't about chasing eyes, it's about living deeply in alignment with yourself. It's the kind of quiet magnetism where stillness becomes strength. You don't get it by trying to be someone else, but by becoming the clearest, most grounded version of who you already are. In this video, we'll explore the habits that allow you to carry that silent presence, to let people feel you without you having to demand it. Stay with me, and you may just see the way you move through the world and the way the world responds to you in a completely new light. 1. Live authentically. Have you ever caught yourself living a life that felt borrowed, smiling when your heart wasn't in it, nodding politely when every instinct told you to say no, moving through days so rehearsed that even you forgot who you really were? I spent years like that, playing the part, blending in so perfectly that my own reflection felt like a stranger. The wake-up call came one quiet Sunday morning in a diner. The waitress poured my coffee and asked if I wanted the usual. I smiled, nodded, and then realized I didn't even like the usual. I'd just grown used to it. That small, almost invisible moment cracked something open. The Stoics called it living in accordance with your nature. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, not a performance, not a copy, but the truest version of yourself." If you're past 40, maybe you've felt it too, the weight of choices made to meet expectations, the jobs you took because they were safe, the relationships you entered because it was time, the yeses you gave to avoid conflict. And then, one day, your soul simply grows tired of pretending. Authenticity isn't loud. It doesn't need to shout or fight. It's the quiet act of aligning your outer life with your inner truth. It's saying, "No, thank you," without guilt. It's wearing what feels like you, not what fits someone else's image of you. It's trusting your own voice, even when it whispers under the noise of the world. I think of my friend Jim, who retired early. He had the money and the time, but felt adrift. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore," he told me. I said, "You're not supposed to do anything. You're supposed to be someone real." Now he walks his dog at sunrise, carves wood in his garage, and reads books he loves. He's never seemed more alive. That's what living in truth does. It carries a quiet clarity that people notice, even if they can't explain why. 2. Dress with purpose. When I began living more honestly, even the way I dressed changed. Not because I wanted to look impressive, but because I began to ask, does this feel like me? For years, my clothes were chosen to please others, professional enough for the office, safe enough for approval. I never asked whether they felt right. The Stoics valued simplicity and intention. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." It's not about fashion, it's about respect for yourself, expressed through every small choice. I think of Martha, a retired teacher. After leaving her job, she gave away all the clothes that made her feel invisible. Now she wears flowing skirts and bold colors. Not for compliments, but because they make her feel alive. When she walks down the street, you can tell she's not dressing to impress anyone. She's simply being herself, and it's beautiful. Purposeful style doesn't have to be expensive or trendy. It's about harmony between who you are and what you show the world. When your clothing feels like an extension of your truth, people sense your presence, not your price tag. For me, it was swapping stiff shirts for soft linen, choosing colors that grounded me. I dressed like someone I respect, not someone I'm trying to sell. When you know yourself, you stop performing. You start expressing. Even your clothes become part of your story, a reflection of the life you've chosen. And from that harmony, attraction flows quietly and naturally, which leads to the next habit, because beyond what you wear, the way you carry yourself can speak volumes before you ever open your mouth. 3. Master your body language. Have you ever been in a room and found your attention drawn to someone who hadn't said a single word? I remember once standing in line at the bank, noticing a man in front of me, mid-50s, quiet, completely at ease. He stood tall, shoulders relaxed, hands resting naturally at his sides. When it was his turn, he greeted the teller with a small, steady nod. Not overly warm, not distant, just present. He didn't ask for attention, but somehow he held it. That was when I began to understand. Our bodies speak long before our voices do. The Stoics knew this truth well. They believed the way you carry yourself outwardly is a mirror of your inner state. If your mind is crowded with tension, insecurity, or resentment, it shows in your stance, your pace, your eyes. But if you've cultivated stillness, self-respect, and inner strength that radiates without a word, I used to hunch my shoulders without realizing it, cross my arms when I felt unsure, and rush into rooms as if I wanted to disappear. But once I began practicing what the Stoics called awareness of self, I slowed down. I noticed my posture. I began to occupy space, not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. One simple habit changed everything. Before walking into a room, I pause at the doorway. I take one slow breath, stand tall, and step in as if I belong there, because I do. You might be surprised at how differently people respond when you carry yourself with that kind of calm assurance. Your posture silently tells others how you value yourself. Your eye contact reveals whether you are truly here in this moment. Even the smallest details, the way you unclench your jaw, soften your gaze, breathe deeply, shift how you are perceived. Think of someone you admire not because they are loud or flashy, but because they move through the world like a rooted tree, steady, unshaken by every passing wind. That is the effect of mastered body language. It doesn't demand attention, it earns it through presence. And here's the connection to the last lesson. You've already chosen to dress with purpose, letting your outward appearance reflect your inner truth. Now, let your body carry that truth even further. Because before people hear your words, they feel your presence. The way you stand, the way you walk, the way you simply exist in a space can whisper confidence or broadcast uncertainty. The choice is always yours. Next, we'll explore another quiet form of influence. How to speak less, but say more. Because once your presence is aligned, your words carry a weight that cannot be faked. Master your body language, not to perform, but to let your body speak the language of your heart. 4. Speak less, mean more. Have you ever met someone who could shift the entire mood of a room with just one sentence? Years ago, I worked with a man named Carl. He wasn't loud. He didn't jump in to win arguments or talk over others. In meetings, he would sit quietly, listening, his presence steady. But when he finally spoke, even if it was only a single line, every head turned. It wasn't the force of his voice. It was the weight of his words. I used to think being heard meant speaking often and speaking loudly. I believed silence was a kind of weakness, but time and a little wisdom taught me otherwise. People who fill every gap in conversation often say very little. Those who pause, think, and choose their words with care leave a mark that lingers. Seneca understood this when he wrote, "Speech, if it is not better than silence, is to be avoided." To the Stoics, words were tools, not toys. They were meant to build, to bridge, to heal, not to be scattered carelessly. I remember one evening on the back porch with my daughter. She was telling me about a problem at work. Years ago, I would have rushed to give advice, to fix it for her, to speak before truly hearing. But this time, I simply listened. When I finally replied, all I said was, "That sounds hard. I trust you'll know what to do." She smiled and hugged me. It wasn't the sentence that mattered. It was the space I left for her to feel seen. That's the thing. People don't always need your solutions. They need your presence. They won't remember the long speeches you gave, but they will remember the one thing you said at the right time, with the right heart. This ties directly to our last lesson. Your body already speaks. Now let your words match that same presence and alignment. The next time you're about to speak, pause. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? If it's not all three, let it pass. There is power in restraint, grace in quiet, and deep respect in allowing others to be heard before you answer. Speaking less doesn't mean staying silent forever. It means choosing your words as if they were a gift, wrapped in thought, delivered without ego. Because when you speak less but mean more, your voice becomes a rare thing, something worth leaning in for. And that leads us naturally into the next habit, going even deeper into silence itself. Not just using fewer words, but owning your quiet with calm and confidence. Sometimes the loudest message you'll ever send is the one you never speak at all. 5. Own your silence. Have you ever felt uneasy in a quiet room, as if the absence of words demanded to be filled? I used to think silence meant something was wrong, that if I didn't speak up, I would seem distant, uninterested, or weak. So I filled every gap with chatter. But as the years passed, I began to notice something about the people I respected most. They were never in a hurry to speak. They were at peace in their stillness. They didn't fidget. They didn't rush to respond. They simply existed, fully present. And because of that, their quiet seemed to hold the room without effort. There's a kind of power that only grows in stillness, a strength that doesn't demand attention, but naturally draws it. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius often reflected in his private writings on the discipline of remaining steady, unmoved by noise or chaos. I've been learning, slowly but surely, to embrace that same discipline. I remember sitting with my son in a crowded doctor's office, phones buzzing, children crying, conversations overlapping. He looked at me and asked, "Why aren't you on your phone?" I smiled and said, "Because I'm okay just sitting here." He seemed puzzled at first, then quietly put his own phone away. We sat together, not awkward, just present. Owning your silence changes the way you live. You stop fearing the pause. You stop running from moments without sound. You realize you don't need to perform, explain, or constantly respond. You can simply be and let the moment speak for itself. In a world addicted to noise, silence is not emptiness. It's rebellion, it's self-respect, it's clarity. Think about the last time someone asked you a difficult question. Did you rush to answer? Did you feel pressure to fill the space? Or did you take a breath and let your thoughts settle? That pause, that single breath, is the bridge between reaction and wisdom. Owning your silence doesn't mean avoiding conversations. It means knowing when your words will serve and when your silence will serve better. It's the ability to hold steady in a pause that others find uncomfortable, and in doing so, invite them into your calm. It's connected to the last habit, speaking less but meaning more. This takes it a step further. Sometimes you say nothing, yet say everything. The next time a conversation goes quiet, resist the urge to fill it. Sit with it. Let it breathe. You'll be surprised how trust and intimacy can grow in that space. And when people see that you are unafraid of silence, they'll trust your words more because they'll know you've earned them. In our next habit, we'll explore another subtle layer of presence, how even the faintest trace you leave behind can shape the way people remember you. Because sometimes the most unforgettable impressions linger in the air long after you've gone. Own your silence. Let your stillness be your signature, and let the world adjust to your calm. 6. Carry a signature scent. Have you ever caught a familiar scent in the air and felt yourself instantly transported to another time? For me, it's the mix of lavender and leather. Even now, decades later, that fragrance pulls me back to my grandfather's old study. I was just a boy then, sitting quietly in the corner as he read. He never spoke much, but his presence always arrived a second before he did, carried by that warm, steady scent. It wasn't loud, it wasn't meant to impress, but it lingered in the memory long after he was gone. That's when I realized something the Stoics would have understood well. We leave traces behind, not only in what we say or do, but in the invisible details that follow us. The Stoics taught that every choice, no matter how small, should be intentional. Choosing a scent isn't about vanity, it's about expression. It's about leaving a quiet imprint, not through volume, but through resonance. In my younger years, I chose cologne because ads told me it was bold, attractive, powerful, but with time, I found I didn't want my scent to shout. I wanted it to whisper, something that said, "I'm here, I'm grounded, I'm at peace." Now, I wear a subtle blend of cedarwood with a touch of bergamot. Not trendy, not flashy, but deeply aligned with who I am. Sometimes when I pass someone, they pause, not because of an expensive label, but because something about it lingers. It's calm, intentional, and that's what a signature scent should be. A silent extension of your presence. Choosing one is more than picking a pleasant fragrance. It's about finding what feels like you, how it blends with your skin, your mood, your way of moving through the world. Ask yourself, what does this say about me? Does it reflect stillness, confidence, warmth? In the same way we learned to own our silence, let your scent be part of that presence. The right fragrance doesn't demand attention, it invites it. It draws people closer without saying a word, telling a story of depth and self-awareness. If you've never found yours, try this. Visit a fragrance shop. Don't ask what's popular. Don't let someone else choose for you. Close your eyes, smell slowly, wait for the one that feels like home. When you find it, make it yours, not for them, but for you. So, I'll leave you with this. Find a scent that speaks without speaking, one that lingers gently in the memory of others long after you've walked away. And if this idea resonates, type scent in the comments and let me know. Subscribe if you're ready to keep exploring these quiet powers, because next we'll move from scent to social grace, where presence is felt not through what people smell or hear, but in the way you make them feel. 7. Practice mesmerizing manners. When I was a child, my mother had one rule that never changed. Manners cost nothing, but they're worth everything. Back then, I thought she meant remembering to say please and thank you, keeping my elbows off the table, or holding the door for someone. But years later, especially after turning 40, I began to understand her real meaning. Manners are more than a set of rules. They are a quiet declaration. I see you. I respect you. You matter. We live in a world that moves too quickly. Conversations overlap. Eyes are fixed on screens, and listening has become a lost art. In such a world, grace becomes rare. And anything rare becomes magnetic. When you slow down and choose to meet others with genuine attention, you stand out, not with noise or flash, but with presence. I once witnessed a small moment that captured this perfectly. I was in line at a grocery store when a young man ahead of me realized he was a few dollars short. The people behind us sighed. The cashier grew tense. Then, an older gentleman, perhaps in his late 60s, stepped forward, placed a $5 bill on the counter, and simply said, "Take your time. No lecture, no performance, just quiet kindness." In that moment, the whole line seemed to breathe easier. Shoulders dropped, faces softened. That's what mesmerizing manners are, not staged politeness, but sincere recognition. The Stoics understood this long before we called it etiquette. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Kindness is invincible if it is sincere. True manners are born from sincerity. They transform small actions into lasting impressions." You don't need grand gestures or public displays. Sometimes it's as simple as making eye contact when someone speaks, setting your phone aside during a conversation, letting another driver merge into your lane with a wave, or saying, "I understand," instead of "you should." These moments might seem small, but they lodge themselves quietly in a person's memory. And make no mistake, manners are not weakness. They are strength, refined. They come from self-respect, from a steady inner calm, from choosing virtue over impulse. Just as a signature scent can linger in the air after you've left, grace can linger in someone's mind for days, months, even years. People may forget your name, but they will never forget how you made them feel. This ties naturally to our next habit, because there is one quality that gives manners their depth, makes conversations meaningful, and turns interactions into connections: being fully present. In a world that constantly pulls your attention away, that might just be your most magnetic trait. Practice mesmerizing manners, not to impress, but to honor the human being in front of you. True elegance doesn't shout. It simply makes others feel at ease. 8. Be fully present. I once met an old friend for coffee at a quiet cafe by the lake. It was the kind of place where time seems to slow down, at least it's meant to. But barely 10 minutes into our conversation, I noticed his eyes kept drifting to his phone. He'd scroll while I spoke, type quick replies, glance up and nod as if to say he was listening, until finally he asked, "Sorry, what were you saying?" I smiled, but inside, something sank. I hadn't been looking for attention. I had been hoping for presence. That moment stayed with me because it reflected back all the times I had done the same, physically there, mentally somewhere else. And it made me ask myself, what does it truly mean to be with someone? The Stoics believed that the present moment is the only thing we truly own. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not yesterday, not tomorrow, now." And yet, how many moments do we miss because our minds are chasing something else? Being fully present is more than paying attention. It is an act of honor. When you give someone your full presence, you are telling them, you matter. Right now, nothing else is more important. I remember sitting beside my father in the hospital near the end of his life. He was too weak to say much. There was no conversation to fill the space. I simply sat there, phone away, watching his breath rise and fall. And in that silence, I realized presence doesn't need words. It just needs you, completely. In daily life, presence shows itself in small ways. Looking someone in the eye, putting your phone down during dinner, listening without waiting for your turn to speak, noticing the tone behind their words, the emotion behind their silence. These acts are simple, but in today's distracted world, they are rare, and what is rare becomes powerful. It connects deeply to our last lesson on mesmerizing manners. Because manners without true presence are only performance. But when you are fully present, even the smallest gesture becomes sincere, and sincerity is magnetic. If you want to practice this, try a simple challenge. For one entire conversation today, be 100% present. No distractions, no rehearsing your response, no mental to-do list, just you and the person in front of you. Feel the shift. Notice how they respond. Because presence is not only attractive, it is healing. It tells people they are seen, heard, valued. And in return, you receive something no screen or scroll can ever give: real connection. In our next lesson, we'll explore the quiet power of mystery. How in a world that reveals everything, what you choose to keep to yourself can make you unforgettable. Be fully present, because the present moment is all we truly have, and the most beautiful ones are the ones we live in completely. 9. Keep a touch of mystery. At a dinner party a few years ago, I met a man who wasn't the loudest in the room, yet somehow drew people toward him. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words were thoughtful, deliberate, and left you curious for more. There was a stillness to him, not arrogance, but a quiet self-possession that made you wonder, who is this man, really? For much of my life, I believed openness meant telling everything, laying my whole story bare until no questions remained. I explained myself to fill every silence, thinking it built trust. But what I've learned, especially after 40, is that not everything needs to be said. Some truths are meant to be protected, not paraded. The Stoics understood this well. They valued what was internal, urging us to guard our thoughts and choose our words with care. Epictetus advised, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." And part of that adornment is knowing when to let silence be your companion. Mystery, when rooted in self-respect, is not manipulation, it is preservation. It honors the sacred parts of your life by allowing them to unfold slowly. I remember a young colleague once asking me, "What's your 5-year plan?" I smiled and said, "Still thinking." It was true, and it was enough. I didn't owe him more. In that moment, I felt the quiet power of owning my own narrative. You see, mystery doesn't mean being closed off. It means resisting the urge to package your whole self for instant consumption. It's like a novel worth reading, revealing itself chapter by chapter, never all at once. In a world eager to broadcast every thought, holding something back can make you magnetic. People lean in when they sense there's more beneath the surface. This connects beautifully to our last lesson on being fully present. Presence frees you from the need to fill every pause with noise. It gives you the patience to let others discover you piece by piece, to invite questions instead of answering them before they're asked. To practice this, start small. Pause before sharing something personal. Allow someone to ask a second question before you reveal more. Let some dreams remain unspoken, some thoughts unsaid. Not because you're hiding, but because you're honoring what's yours. Mystery is not the absence of truth, it's the art of revealing it with intention. In our next lesson, we'll turn outward to the world itself. Because part of silent attraction isn't just knowing yourself, it's understanding others. And there are few qualities more compelling than someone who carries quiet wisdom about the world beyond their own. Maintain a touch of mystery, not to play games, but to protect what's precious. Let your depth be felt, not announced. In the end, your silence may speak more powerfully than your explanation. 10. Cultivate cultural wisdom. Have you ever stepped into a place where nothing felt familiar, the language, the smells, the rhythm of the day, and yet, instead of fear, you felt a strange sense of wonder? I was nearly 50 when I experienced this for the first time, in a small village in northern Italy. One afternoon, I saw an old man by a fountain reading, sipping espresso, watching the world pass with a peace I hadn't seen in years. I asked if I could join him. He smiled and said, "Only if you are not in a hurry." For 2 hours, in broken English and broken Italian, we spoke about family, food, faith, and time. As I stood to leave, he told me, "The world gets softer when you stop needing it to be like you." That sentence stayed with me. The Stoics believed we are all citizens of one great city, the world. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it." Cultural wisdom isn't about travel stamps or exotic stories. It's about openness. It's about listening more than assuming, respecting differences without needing agreement, and carrying pieces of other perspectives within you. You can cultivate it anywhere. Read an author from a country you've never visited. Try food you can't pronounce. Ask your neighbor about a tradition they cherish. In doing so, something shifts. You soften. You see that beneath every accent and custom, people want the same things: to live, to love, to be understood. And when you carry that understanding, you speak with care, you listen with heart, and you treat strangers with dignity, not because they mirror you, but because they matter. This leads naturally to our next lesson, compassion. Because all the wisdom in the world means little if it never learns how to care. 11. Respond with compassion. It was a bitter winter afternoon when a man brushed hard against my shoulder in the grocery store parking lot. No apology, no glance back, just kept walking. Anger rose in me instantly. I wanted to call out, to demand respect. But something inside urged me to pause. Maybe it was the cold air. Maybe it was years of learning that not every battle is worth fighting. I took a slow breath and let it pass. Moments later, I saw him in his car, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. Later, I learned he had lost his job. His wife was in the hospital. His life was unraveling. My anger would have added nothing but more weight to his burden. The Stoics taught that we master our reactions, not because emotions are wrong, but because unguarded emotions can wound. Seneca wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Age makes that truth sharper. Everyone you meet carries something unseen, a loss, a fear, an old wound. We all wear masks, but beneath them, we are more alike than we realize. I once worked with a woman named Claire, sharp, brilliant, and often cutting. In a meeting, instead of matching her edge, I quietly asked, "Are you okay?" She froze, then whispered, "No one's asked me that in years." That single moment softened her, not because I solved anything, but because I didn't meet fire with fire. I offered water. Compassion is not softness, it's strength under control. It chooses understanding over judgment, patience over retaliation. It connects deeply to cultural wisdom, because to care, you must first step into another's world. So when someone snaps, ignores, or seems cold, ask yourself, what might they be carrying today? And choose kindness anyway. In our final lesson, we'll turn to something many overlook: joy. Because the ability to smile after storms have passed isn't just light-hearted, it's life-affirming. 12. Find strength in joy. For a long time I believed that wisdom meant wearing a serious face, that if you were truly grounded, you kept your laughter measured, your joy restrained, your lightness hidden. But the years have taught me something the young me didn't understand. Joy is not a crack in your armor. It is part of the armor itself. On my desk, there's a photo of me and my son, both doubled over in laughter. It wasn't a birthday or a holiday. We were just making pancakes and burned one so badly it looked like a shoe. Yet when I look at that picture now, I see more than humor. I see a moment where life was unfiltered, no deadlines, no worries, no past or future, just presence. The Stoics were never against joy. That's a misunderstanding. They valued it deeply, but they sought the kind that comes from living in harmony with yourself, not from possessions or applause. Seneca wrote, "The wise man is full of joy, even in the face of sorrow." This is the quiet joy I have learned to hold, the kind that hides in the corners of ordinary days, the kind you carry in your chest long after the moment has passed. To laugh when life is heavy is proof that you have not surrendered. To smile when the world tells you to worry is to claim a freedom that cannot be taken. Laughter bridges gaps between people, melts away tension, and reminds us we are still here, still human, still capable of light. Every habit we've explored leads here. Authentic living clears space for joy. Presence lets you notice it. Compassion makes it easier to share. Silence makes it ring true. And when you carry joy, not because life is perfect, but because you've walked through the imperfect and still found something to smile about, you become quietly magnetic, alive in a way that no performance can imitate. If there is a part of you that longs for presence without pretense, start today. Begin with a moment of silence. Let the stillness settle inside you until it becomes the ground you stand on. Every small choice you make, from the way you enter a room to the way you listen, shapes the quiet strength you carry. Let the world feel you, not because you are demanding attention, but because you are rooted in who you are. This is the power of becoming rather than performing. When your life is aligned with your truth, you do not need to chase approval. Your calm draws the right people toward you. Your steadiness becomes a kind of anchor for others. In a noisy world, your presence becomes the signal that clarity still exists. If this speaks to you, subscribe so we can keep walking this quiet and powerful path together. In the comments, type "quiet power" to remind yourself that strength does not always need a voice to be heard. You already hold the seeds of this magnetism within you. Nurture them with patience, protect them with boundaries, live in a way that lets your actions reveal your values without explanation. When you walk through life with this kind of centered energy, people notice without knowing why. They feel safe around you. They remember you. Carry this with you into your next conversation, your next challenge, your next moment of stillness. And when you are ready to strengthen that inner foundation even more, join me in the next video where we will explore 10 Stoic principles that will build unshakable self-discipline so nothing and no one can control you.